Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Lightning Talks. These are our community-led events that are community-led talks that are 10 to 15 minutes in length, just to give you a brief introduction to all the amazing things our community is working on. First up, we're going to have Jillian from Mimi Dev. Please come up and we'll get started.
Hey everyone! All right, super excited to be up here kicking off the Lightning Talks. I'm supposed to have a clicker. There we go. All right. This is the first page. All right. This Lightning Talk is called Building UGC in a Virtual Studio, and this is all about the story of La Boutique Mimi, which is my UGC studio. All right, a little bit of introduction on me, because a lot of you probably don't know me. I'm Mimi Dev. I joined the platform in 2008. I am the lead developer of Dance Your Blocks Off, Tutuland. My first game was Roblox Zoo. I have worked on the Restless brand collab, and I also did a little bit of stuff for the Closet project. All right, so before we talk about building UGC in a virtual studio, we have to talk about what I used to do, which is building UGC in a really boring base plate. I did have some shelves because I couldn't organize anything, but that's basically all I had. When we started doing layered clothing, I did the same thing. I'm still in this really bland-looking base plate with a bunch of buttons so I can try things on, shelves for organization. It's a mess. In the back, I don't know if you guys can see that super well, but there's a bunch of just stuff sitting in the back with a little backdrop. That was to take photos because we used to have to take photos of all of our stuff in order to submit it for quality assurance. That's not a thing anymore, but it was a mess. So what changed? I started collaborating with my sister, Miss Peach, when she became a UGC creator. And together we created La Boutique Mimi, which is our fashion brand. So we realized something had to change because the old system was causing burnout. It just was a mess. It wasn't fun. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I used to do 5 items a week, every week, and then I got so burnt out that I completely stopped doing UGC for months. And then when layered clothing came out, I did the same thing all over again, and once again, I got burnt out and stopped making UGC for months. So now we start together brainstorming. And then Peach makes concept art. She's an amazing artist, and you guys are going to see some of her work later because it's fantastic. So she makes the concept art, and then we create the outfits together. We don't make one-off items anymore. We make entire outfits all at once, and this allows us to plan out an entire design, and it's a lot easier to organize and not get burnt out. Then we edit it in our virtual workshop, which is what this whole talk is about. We use the workshop to film and photograph in addition to setting up the actual item. And then we can put it on sale and advertise it and display it in the home store, which is attached to the virtual workshop. All right, here it is, the virtual workshop, the moment you've been waiting for. We no longer create UGC on a base plate. And this basically came about because we realized that it's way more fun to create in a space that looks like this, and we accidentally started building UGC in the metaverse. This is that whole idea of having a whole virtual space to create in. We didn't do it intentionally, but it happened, and it's cool. So yeah. So why should you do that? It is a better creative environment. It just feels better. You feel like a real designer when you're working in a space that looks real. It is much easier to organize our work. The bottom right image there shows the racks of clothing that we have created, and it's all just there for me to access whenever I need to. It is much better for collaboration. In the top right image, on the right there is where I actually do most of the editing of the UGC items. That's where I do a lot of importing. And on the far left, cropped out is where we take photos. So Peach can be working on editing textures while I'm doing photos, and we can fly back and forth. The only thing that would make it better is if we could have our characters just drop down into the world and walk around the workshop. And I know there's a plugin to do that, but I haven't tried it yet, so that's next. All right, this is a quick time lapse of the workflow so you can see how this actually works. We set up the UGC on mannequins on one side of the workshop, and then we can drag it over to the other side. And then we can test it on the different models. And this is really important because this is part of our quality assurance testing to make sure that all of our items fit on all character types. I think it's really important to make sure that we're always testing everything on 1.0 and 3.0. That is the blocky characters and the woman package. Because those are the most popular. And then we can just take photos of stuff when it's done, and it works really well. All right, so that concept art I mentioned earlier, this is the part of the process where Peach makes the concept art, and then these items will eventually become UGC items. And we're going to have some comparisons here. So the first one here, this was created last October. And in this one, we had to make some changes. The leg warmers didn't work so great with the sunflowers. They got really distorted, so we had to get rid of them. And we found this out while we were testing in our workshop. The next one, this is one of our most recent designs, and it was for our Celestial collection. This one ended up having a purse to go with it, and this was not in the original concept. Peach had to actually draw a separate concept for that. And now we're going to take a look at how we actually use these in our workshop. So I can test them in different lighting conditions. There's an outdoor section attached to the workshop because it is also our home store. And there's an indoor section. So we can see how reflections work with everything. We tested on all the different characters. You can see we are trying to make sure everything always looks good on all character types, including layered clothing, because that doesn't always look great on blocky characters, but we're trying our best. Our workshop can also be used for creative problem solving. Here I have some display cards for earrings, and these were for the home store, so we can display them looking like actual earrings on a rack. And I needed a place to store all of the cards so that I could copy paste them later when I needed more of them. And hey, I've got this workshop with all this empty shelving. I can just put these things on the shelf, and now they're decoration and useful. So that's really fun. The other reason you want to have a virtual workshop is because you can interact with your players. Players can join the home store, and they can walk down this little alley and enter right into our workshop and see what we're currently working on. If we publish the game with our in-progress UGC items, players can literally just walk up, try on stuff that isn't done, see things that we're halfway through working on. We just have to keep it clean and make sure it's not a mess, which is a whole workflow thing, but we're working on making sure that we always keep the space fun for players. This is not actually released yet. We're releasing soon, but we're using this workshop, and we have been for the last year. All right, one more page of concept art. This is also to do with interacting with your players. These are our first designs, and these were actually for a fashion show. So I'm just going to quickly click through this. These designs were created back in August a year ago when we did our first fashion show, and that, I'm going to get to that in a second. But you'll see that these designs actually stayed much closer to the original concept art. We were being a little bit more careful with these ones because the initial ones were like our first projects. So that's all of them. And here is the fashion show. So this is actually next door to the workshop. In the same game world, you can watch fashion shows running that are all of the UGC that we have previously created. So we've got the workshop, we've got the fashion shows, we've got the home store, and when players are done watching the fashion show, they get to exit into the gift shop. Yes, I stole that from Disney. So the idea is essentially that they leave the fashion show, they go right into the store, they can buy everything, and then they can leave. And that is the complete Le Boutique Mimi workflow. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Welcome, Max.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. I'll hold this. All right. Thank you very much, Mimi Dev. That was a great presentation. All right. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Awesome, awesome. All right. So today I'm going to be covering Performant Worlds, a case for instant streaming. But first, I want to talk a little bit about me. So my name is Max Distinti. My username is blankscarface23. I've been a longtime Roblox user since 2011, and I earned my Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science in 2020. And I'm a software engineer now. So if you look over on the right side, you'll see some of the awesome experiences that I've had the chance to work on. And if you'd like to learn more about me, go ahead and scan the QR code and go to my website. So. All right, so before we move on, I wanted to kind of go over what we're going to cover from a high level. And that will be instant streaming, what it is, why it's important, and how we can use it. So I want to cover technical behavior of instant streaming, as well as streaming controls to better control models for streaming in and streaming out. I want to go over a level of detail so that the world feels more full as well as performant. And then I want to leave you all with some best practices and takeaways so that you can implement instant streaming in your experiences. And then I'll have a quick Q&A. All right, so instant streaming. What is streaming? Streaming is a way for the Roblox Engine to dynamically load and unload content, 3D content, as needed. So, and it's important because it allows for faster join times, better memory efficiency, improved performance, and lowers crash rate a lot. So how do I use it? So to use streaming, it's as simple as enabling streaming in Workspace, setting streaming enabled to true. Now, it's important to note that streaming enabled, by setting it to true, will not solve everything. You have to follow design practices to put it into use correctly. And then streaming properties, if you look over on the right side, you can see that there are a bunch of different ways to configure streaming. And it's important to play around with these to see what best fits your use case. All right, so streaming in. So when the server replicates objects to clients, the instance types of the objects that are streamed in are handled differently. So for parts, mesh parts, and their descendants, they are streamed in according to the they're streamed in according to whether or not your target radius is outside, or if they're outside of your target radius. So basically, all of the other objects are loaded in when they are when your client joins. So, and then terrain is handled uniquely in that it loads when the client joins, and then the regions of the terrain load in according to your according to where you are in the world. And then model behavior. There is a model behavior property inside of Workspace that determines how models get streamed in and streamed out. Default and legacy means that models are always replicated when the client joins. And then improved means that the models are loaded in, not always loaded in right when the client joins, but shortly thereafter, if it is a non-spatial model. So what that means is if it doesn't have parts or mesh parts. If it is a spatial model, then it will be loaded in when its descendants are eligible. So for streaming out, it's controlled by stream out behavior, which is yet another property in Workspace. And there is low memory and opportunistic. And by default, it's set to opportunistic. Opportunistic means that when the object is outside of the target radius, which is a set distance away from your player, your client, it is streamed out. Now, low memory, it streams out objects that are outside of the min radius. So we optimally don't want anything inside of the min radius to be streamed out. And then there's luau state preservation here, which means that when an object is streamed out, its parent is set to nil, so that when it comes back in, and it gets streamed back in, possibly, not necessarily, it will pick up where it left off, okay? And then you want to make sure to be proactive. So when objects stream out, you want to make sure that you're logging their state or whatever you need for your specific use case. All right, so as we talked about, model streaming behavior is you can set it inside a workspace, but you can control more about how models behave based on their streaming controls, which we'll cover in the next slide. And then there's an option called streaming integrity, which controls whether gameplay it gets paused when a player gets moved outside of the streamed in area of the world. And then min and target radius means that the min radius optimally doesn't want to get loaded out like we discussed. And then target radius means that the opportunistic area loads out the content. And then calibration, it's important when you have objects in your world, it won't always look the same for every specific experience. So you want to make sure that it's calibrated to best fit your experience. All right, so streaming controls. So this is for models, okay? It's a property inside of models. You can set it to default, which goes to non-atomic. What this means is that it falls back to the model streaming behavior of Workspace. And then basically what it does is when the descendants are eligible, they stream in and stream out accordingly. And then for atomic, there's atomic, there's persistent, and then there's persistent per player, which I'll cover. So atomic streaming is pretty cool. What it means is that the model, when any of its descendants are eligible to be streamed in, the whole model streams in together. Now, when all of the descendants are outside of the streaming radius, it gets streamed out together. So it's good to note and good to have. It's very important. Persistent streaming means that the model gets replicated to the client upon join and does not stream out for all clients. But you can actually set this to persistent per player. And what this means is that for this specific player, it gets streamed in, it does not get streamed out. And it may get streamed out for others. All right, and then there's this cool tool called level of detail, which allows for your world to feel more full and as well as be more performant. And this is basically accomplished using this neat tool called streaming mesh. And what this means is instead of objects getting streamed out, it'll create, if you look on the right side, it'll create a imposter mesh, what's known as an imposter mesh. And it will make the world feel like it has, more objects than it does, really. But and then there's, you want to make sure that this imposter mesh is optimally 1,024 studs away from your character. So set the target radius to 1,024 if you're going to use LOD. And then, because if it gets too close to your client, then it may be not visually acceptable. And then these are lacking textures. So it's important to note that your world may look weird if you don't have, textured streaming meshes, or if you have streaming textured meshes. And then there's no physical significance here. So what that means is that the objects get, there's no raycasting, there's no collisions, there's no physics involved. And then if you have a streaming mesh model, the model is, if you have models that are underneath it using streaming mesh as well, it will actually be, it'll cause negative performance because you don't want to have a hierarchy of streaming meshes. All right, so I want to leave you all with some best practices here. And you want to make sure to use wait for child because not everything will be available on your client. You want to use it on the client because the server should have everything pretty much most of the time. But you want to make sure not to overuse wait for child. When you have an atomic model, for example, you want to make sure that you wait for the atomic model to load, and then everything should be accessible underneath the atomic model. And then you want to limit stored 3D content inside of server storage, for example. It may cause a negative performance impact. And then the server should move the players optimally through a stream request. And what this means is that the server should request an area of the world to load and then move the player. Okay? And then if the player is not moving through the world, the replication focus should be used to set where the world should load. And then you want to also make sure to use LOD only when appropriate. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yeah, that's a good question. You typically, when you sign up for to use streaming, you want to make sure to wait for child most of the time. And if you have a persistent, something that's super important in your workspace that you need to make sure you have all the time, you want to set it to persistent, though it's discouraged. You want to make sure it's used in very rare cases, only when necessary. So.
My game currently uses legacy StreamingEnabled. I was wondering if there are plans for it to ever become, it's currently deprecated, but I was just worried whether or not it might become dysfunctional because it's a lot of work for older gaming to use it.
So when did you adopt streaming?
Back in
20 what?
I think around 20.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll have to get back to you on that. I would need to check the API and refer to that. So I think, yeah, let's talk, all right? Yeah.
So when it comes to attributes versus base values in terms of streaming, what do you think is more reliable to use there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. I think it's important to note that you can use attributes, but it's also cool because collection service comes in handy here. If you have a bunch of objects that you need to have streamed in and streamed out and keep track of, collection service is your best friend. So.
You mentioned not putting a lot of 3D content in server storage while using StreamingEnabled. Why?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I think that when objects are streamed, I suspect that the engine looks for these objects in 3D space. And when they're in server storage, you can still see their outline of where they are in the world. And it may cause more performance. It may have the streaming strained a little bit if you have a lot of objects in server storage, because maybe it's still picking it up. So, any other questions?
If you're storing a bunch of, let's say you're storing a map, would you rather store that in replicated storage or server storage?
My answer would be server storage, because replicated storage, it'll get replicated, and then it'll probably also be picked up by streaming. So it'll probably be twice as bad if you're in replicated, if it's in replicated storage.
you so much, Max. That was awesome. And if you have more streaming questions, go bother Brian Neeler at the Engine Lab. And now we have Macy Landon, who's going to talk about discovery and thumbnail design. One second. Here, I'll get this to you.
Howdy, my name is Macy, also known as Zero Skies on the platform, and I've been designing thumbnails and icons for games on Roblox for over 7 years. Today, I'd like to share some insights on how to create engaging thumbnails that will attract players to your games. Icons and thumbnails have always held a crucial role in games' visibility and garnering engagement. For years, developers utilized small square icons and advertisements to represent their games across the platform. Once players made it to the game's landing page, they'll then see thumbnails, trailers, exciting descriptions, badges, and game passes that will finally land a click on that play button. But to catch that initial click on that icon meant displaying your game in an engaging way. But how do these icons and thumbnails do that? The first page players are taken to once they log in is the home screen. From there, they're now presented with a mass of large images representing games they've recently played and games that the algorithm thinks they may like. Younger players will often focus more on just the thumbnail younger players will focus more on the thumbnails first to decide if the game is worthy of their time, whereas older players will weigh the title of the game and the thumbnail in a more even balance. With recent updates to the way the platform displays games on the player's homepage, games now have a larger area to use to engage with players. Thumbnails are more important now than ever. A well-designed thumbnail can significantly boost your game's visibility and player engagement. And after years of designing these thumbnails with engagement in mind, I'm here to share some insights and tips on how you can take advantage of this new thumbnail update. One of the first aspects I consider when creating thumbnails for a game is the game's player base. What is the typical audience of this game? Who am I advertising to? Different demographics are attracted to different styles in art. For younger audiences, bright colors and playful scenes that are often on the more simple side work best in capturing their attention. For older audiences, more detailed and intricate designs generally work best. In these specific graphics, the one on the left is Welcome to Bloxburg, and I went with a more simplistic approach that I'll talk about later, whereas the one on the right, definitely a lot more detailed. One of the second things I consider when designing for a game is the game's visual branding. Is there a consistent layout or color scheme they prefer using? When displayed next to other games, do they have a style that stands out and is unique to them? Having a set branding scheme can set a game apart from the rest, making it easily recognizable to players when viewing their thumbnails, not just on their home screen, but across social media and beyond. Big brands generally have a set visual scheme they follow. Why? Because it makes them stand out. You'll notice in these thumbnails for Welcome to Bloxburg, they all follow a pretty similar layout. 2 characters positioned on the side in front of a much larger scene. When Queptus reached out to me to help him work on a thumbnail overhaul for Welcome to Bloxburg, we wanted something simple yet accurate in displaying the different aspects of the game, and something that was easy to understand if you were just a young player scrolling through the thumbnails. Their icons are another very good example of an easily identifiable game, using their graphic, with Tom always waving his hand in the icon. For centuries, the science of color in art has been studied, and today, color theory makes it easy to understand how different colors evoke different emotions and can grab your attention. In my designs, I typically focus on bold contrast and balanced uses of color to instantly engage viewers. You might have heard briefly a little bit about color theory, but you'll often notice a lot of restaurants will typically use warmer color schemes because they invoke they kind of make you hungry. But on the opposite end, cooler colors make you calm, but they also kind of give that opposite effect. And the thumbnail on the right, you'll notice, is divided into a strange grid, but studies have shown that when you separate a thumbnail into this grid layout, it's just laying your subjects out along these intersections makes for a more visually appealing design. You may have dozens of aspects of your game that you want players to see as soon as possible. It's important not to overwhelm the player. Visual clarity in your thumbnail is really important. While having a large detailed scene displayed on your games page or social media may be easy to digest, but viewing that same thumbnail on the games page or the home page may be confusing to someone scrolling by. It's important to keep in mind the scale limitations of where your thumbnail is displayed. Displaying precisely what you want is crucial. Do you have a new item you want players to be aware of? A new character? Make sure that stays the focus, and make sure other items are displayed elsewhere. Ensure thumbnails clearly represent your game, and focus on a single compelling image. My favorite thumbnails always involve action and storytelling. Thumbnails with a dynamic scene is more engaging. Showing characters in motion or depicting an exciting moment from your game is always a good way to capture someone's attention. But capturing a game's story in the breadth of a single image is meant to provide a snapshot of what a player could possibly experience. When I first started learning icon and thumbnail design in 2017, I started with Blender. Blender is free, open source, and widely used. Once I render a graphic, I typically use Photoshop for editing, but some other free alternatives are Photopea and Pixlr. YouTube is also your biggest ally for learning. I've spent countless hours watching tutorials on Blender and Photoshop. I started by learning the basics of Blender to get familiar with the software before incorporating assets from Roblox. After designing graphics for so long and picked up on some modeling skills, I'm now a UGC creator and confident asset designer. But my biggest piece of advice out of all of this is to try and learn something new with each project. And I think that translates to a lot of different mediums. In doing so, you'll find your skill set evolving exponentially. To simplify what we just covered, remember to keep in mind your target audience when you design. Maintain a consistent and easily identifiable brand, and consider color and its psychological effects and how they grab people's attention. Ensure thumbnails clearly represent your game, avoid clutter, and focus on a single compelling image. Lastly, remember to show players the exciting experience that awaits them. Thumbnails are a balance of both attraction and accuracy. Designing these thumbnails and icons and advertisements to bring together an audience of millions to genres across the platform sounds like a daunting job, but it's rewarding artistry that can constantly evolving and never fails to amaze me. With thousands of resources online, learning how to tackle such a unique field is possible for anyone with the drive to do so. By starting with a simple understanding of the science behind these designs, you too can create your own handcrafted world captured in a single frame. And if anyone has any questions about what we just went over, I'd love to open the floor to discussion. Yes. Thank you. That's a great question. He asked, so with these thumbnails being displayed larger on the home page, sometimes thumbnails will get cut off when you're scrolling through. And he asked, how do you kind of consider that left side or the right side that gets cut off? Kind of going back to the composition tips, you have those leading, or not leading lines, but the rule of thirds where you're aligning things on certain sides of the thumbnail. It might benefit to consider aligning those aspects of your game that you're wanting players to really see off the bat on the left side. But that is a really good question. Any other questions? Yes. That's a good question. It was, how do you go through different versions knowing what thumbnail is the thumbnail? And honestly, from my perspective, I think the thumbnail off the bat personally is always my favorite, but when I work with clients, they often want a couple different revisions because we're always trying to match our same vision. But I find that the developers often know their audience the best, so it's a matter of really working with what they want and what they want to display, and then also you do have your CTR statistics, and you kind of get to see what works best with players through those statistics. Yes?
With the new update of the Roblox, having thumbnails preview really small, do you think some thumbnails nowadays should have like less content or more? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so the question was, with thumbnails being displayed differently, should we display more aspects of the game or less? And I think it really just depends on where your thumbnail is going to be displayed. If you're focusing more on the home page with the larger screen or smaller on the games page. It just depends on what you're wanting to showcase in your game to really grab that player's attention off the bat. So if it's one aspect of your game or a certain element from an update that you're recently doing, I think that might be best. But I think ultimately, the simpler the better to really convey your game across, because players are scrolling through these games really fast through their homepage, through their games page. You want to really focus on what's going to grab their attention the quickest as they're scrolling through dozens of different games. Yes?
For those who are looking to get into creating thumbnails, what do you consider to be good commission prices for this type of work?
Yeah, so commission prices, that is a good question. When I first started, I kind of based it off of what other people were pricing as, but as I've grown, it's a matter of how much time am I spending on this thumbnail, how much time do I have to spend on the thumbnail. It kind of aligns with my schedule, and I've gotten my prices to where I'm not taking in too many commissions, to where I'm able to balance my time with my work. So I think that is probably my biggest tip, is to really weigh in. Do you want to take in a lot of commissions for a low price, or do you want to kind of almost pay while you work in a sense, to where you're able to balance your work life a little better? Yes? The question was thumbnail trends. I don't know. I mean, I say that I definitely don't think that there's a certain way to make a thumbnail. These are just tips that I've found that work. I do see really popular games with thumbnails that's just some random screenshot from the game, or maybe even just a word, and they are like blowing up on the platform. So it really just depends, and honestly, try out what works, but I think the way to go is to show what a player can experience in your game. You know, if there's a big boss fight, have that in the thumbnail. If they're, driving a car around, having a cool racing scene is always pretty attractive. But showcasing what the player could experience in your game is, I think, my best bet. Yes? Certain ways of branding your games do better than others. I feel like that kind of aligns to the previous question. I'm not sure if I'm answering this accurately, but it really just depends on how you've, say again? Okay, yeah. Different techniques work better than others. I don't know. I've done so many different thumbnails, it's hard to choose what techniques does work best with players. Not sure I know how to answer that one right now. Any other questions? Yes? So typically with all of my thumbnails is, if I'm working with a client, sometimes they'll give me a sketch or a reference of what they're wanting, and then I'll do a quick mock-up in Blender, rough layout of the scene. Maybe I'll even take a screenshot of the angle I'm wanting to go for, draw some little stick characters over it, be like, hey, this is kind of the angle I'm wanting to go for, what do you think? And then if you're like, go for it, the rest of the scene is done in Blender. I try to avoid Studio as much as possible, respect for anyone who uses it, but I'm primarily a Blender user, and then once I render that graphic in Blender, I'll do a little bit of compositing in there, and then I'll fully edit the rest in Photoshop. Yes? Yeah, so of course I'm a little biased towards games having my own thumbnails, but I definitely think having a pretty engaging thumbnail will boost your game, especially when it comes to brand deals and displaying new updates that are in your game. I personally am really fond of the Charlie XCX Dress to Impress thumbnail. I thought that was incredible. I think they did that in studio. I don't know. I want to talk to them. But being able to showcase what's going on in your game at a current time is always a good way to boost player count. And I find that some of my graphics that have the highest CTRs are very high in color, very bold, very contrasty. They're just able to easily stand out. Yes, I'll take one more question.
What do you think about A/B testing thumbnail
I think we need more of that because although I'm not a game developer, I understand that some developers or some thumbnails will work better than others, and it's a little hard for me to understand that. But if we have more of that A/B testing, and then I remember in the keynote they mentioned earlier, it was being able to show a certain thumbnail to a certain demographic, and I think that's a great way to really find that target audience and find out what thumbnails work best for your player base. And so I am big into that, and I think that A/B testing is very good. If I have any other questions, feel free to contact me on Twitter. But thank you all so much for coming and asking all these great questions. Thank you.
That was awesome. Well, everyone's thumbnails are going to be amazing after that. Now we have Connor to talk about AI in lifelike worlds.
How's everybody doing this evening? Hello guys, I'm Skeletal Reality, and this is my talk about AI for NPCs in lifelike open worlds. And so a big point of clarification, next one. Yeah, so a big point of clarification is when I'm talking about artificial intelligence, I'm not talking about generative AI or like the modern way we look at it. I'm merely talking about decision making of NPCs, like where they go and why. And so the primary concern of this topic is how NPCs will go from point A to point B, and then the other is the why. A little bit about me. I've been programming on Roblox for over 10 years at this point. I've worked on Heroes of Robloxia, Spider Simulator, and I have 2 new games that I'm really happy to try to announce here later today. Now I'm a computer science student at the University of Washington. So a big problem is that, well, first of all, we know that this place is really crowded, a lot of people here, and so a lot of what we do is moving around, like, hey, excuse me, get out of the way, please, like, strafing around, and like, how do we do that? And most of all, how do we code that? How do we make NPCs do that? This is not an easy question at all. And in fact, I've been at it for 2 years. I tried in 2022. I couldn't really do it, and so I gave up and moved on. Now, when we think about NPCs going from point A to point B, we think about using pathfinding service. And what they use is a nav mesh and waypoints that they simply walk to them. However, this is not fast enough for a dynamic environment change, especially with other NPCs in their vicinity. They have to change their direction and speed too fast, just like you would in the real world if you're trying to go through a crowd. And this is why, Roblox happens to conveniently just ignore characters altogether when doing the pathfinding. So you have 2 easy solutions. One has been just to turn on collision groups and not let the NPCs collide with each other, or B, just let them smack into each other and hope they eventually slide out of the way. But I wasn't satisfied with either of those. And I've been really focused on this subject, and I'm really happy to show that I finally had something after 2 years, something I'm really proud of. And so I looked out, I went to the industry, and I saw in 2017 the release of Horizon Zero Dawn. The AI researchers do mention this a lot for their creatures, and one solution is the velocity obstacle, where we're not just taking the position of the other NPCs into account, but also their speeds and directions. And so we're able to plan ahead. And so mine actually kind of improves on that with this idea of the reciprocal velocity obstacle, RVO. And as you can see in that example with these circle of NPCs passing through each other, they're able to do it more smoothly. They're able to do it a lot easier. And on the right, you see one of those NPCs, and they have those red triangles. Those are the collision cones that they need to stay out of. Otherwise, they're going to collide with another person. So here's a video demonstration of that. As you can see, it's pretty satisfying to watch, to see how they're able to avoid each other pretty dynamically. They're able to update their speeds pretty well. An improvement on the system, let me go next, I wait for the video to stop to go next. Another one is optimal reciprocal collision avoidance. This takes the foundation of RVO and makes it a little bit better. It's very abstract. I will spare you from the details, but I think the results speak for themselves. We have 80 NPCs, and they're able to seamlessly pass through each other, turn around, back up if they need to, and if there's a congested space. And so here's something that's actually pretty amazing. So say we have a sidewalk. Fortunately, it doesn't look like it's playing. It makes some time to load, actually. All right. So we have two groups of NPCs, and they need to pass each other. And something actually incredible happens. As you can see, they will spontaneously form alternating single-file lines, which I didn't tell them to do. They just do it because that's the most efficient path to avoid congestion. And this is actually a real-world phenomenon that occurs when two crowds of people are walking by each other on the streets. And so it says something about, it gets to the heart really of how humans might be trying to avoid others in the real world. We go next. So they have a lot of parameters, and we can actually be tweaking this. We can test things such as their time horizon, their avoidance, their cooperation, and we can create these sets of traits. Here we have shy, and we have aggressive in red, and shy is yellow, and they're going to try to pass through each other. And as you can see, they make widely different paths here. And so we can see a video of that as well, with the shy agents completely trying to avoid the red group. Some of them get caught up, and they really want to get out, like, get me out of here. Those two yellow guys. And they switch, they pass through each other, and this is something that we can change over time. So for example, like if we have some sort of creature and they're aggressive and they want to attack you, they can be more like the red agents. But if they're trying to be careful and trying to run away, they might have the traits of a yellow agent. So the AI researchers at Horizon Zero Dawn discussed the idea that the way we avoid NPCs is not perfect, but it is human. And so what are the traits that make that human? And we're not really able to show how to program that other than using just a machine learning algorithm using a data set. And so here's like a crowd data set online. I believe it's called the UCY data set. And it tracks the splines of the pedestrians who are passing through each other. And as you can see, I've set something up here where it's able to do a cost function, where the cost is the distance between the actual path of the person in the camera. And so we could tweak that and make it a little more lifelike, make it a little more realistic. And I feel like that's going to make it a whole lot better. But for all intents and purposes, the system works as is. And so think of the kinds of games that you could make with this. I'm thinking about tycoons or like restaurants or theme parks where each NPC is actually seems to be alive and going through a day schedule and actually able to acknowledge many other NPCs at a time. We can have hundreds of them. It works incredibly well. It's 25% faster with help of native code generation. So this is a tremendously helpful thing as well. And so this has been made in the service of Harp Isles, a game that I've been working on for the past year. And it has been incredible with these animators, with these map designers. We have these herds of NPCs, all bundled in groups. And what they're able to do is when they see you, they'll alert the others to run away from you. And they'll keep going, trying to go in herds. They're a bit scared of you, and they kind of want to leave. So there are a lot of things that you can make with this. I'm thinking like another thing is war simulators, real-time strategy games where we have a lot of troops and having them fight each other. Just think all the kinds of new games that we can make with this. Go next. So here's a screenshot of the map and how they're going to be flowing through these parts of the terrain. It's really beautiful. I really like the design here. And so we've discussed 2D navigation. Now, the ORCA, optimal reciprocal collision avoidance, doesn't necessarily have to be in 2 dimensions. You can make it in 3 dimensions. I haven't done it yet. It's a bit hard. But we're going to go up from 2D to 3D because in this game, we also have flying creatures. So here's a flock of flying creatures, and there's an algorithm called Boids. If you do programming, you've definitely heard of it. It's from the 80s, and it still works pretty well. They flock together. They're able to have sort of cohesive motion, and they're going up in the sky, and then they're going to start flowing somewhere else. And so it kind of gets to the heart of the realistic movement of flying creatures in the real world, sort of this flocking simulation. And so now we need to discuss pathfinding. We are really ambitious at Harp Isles, and we have a bunch of birds. We want hundreds of flying NPCs who are able to fly around you in 3D space. And so in order to do that, we need to make our own navigation mesh. And this is sort of just a voxel scan of our map. It's called voxel aux trees, and we're able to do that to sort of get the shape of the boundaries that the birds had to avoid. And this is something that we have to do completely ourselves, and we separate into chunks. And as you can see, I have a video demonstration here. Next step. So incredible, a lot of visuals going on here, but here we have 50 birds, and we have this beautiful porous terrain made by our team, by Blue Goldfish and Seal Annie. And as you can see, you're flying through this porous terrain, going through all these caves, but these birds are going to be able to go through every twist and turn to get to you. And there's a huge swarm of them, they're angry at you, they want to kill you. We got a whole bunch of them, and we can have hundreds of them at the map. And I think it'll be an incredibly immersive experience. It's so much fun to do. I've done it all the time. And here's a bit more of that without the visuals so much. And so hundreds of NPCs are flying, hundreds of NPCs on the grounds that are in flocks, that are in herds, that can acknowledge each other, that can avoid each other, that can chase you in realistic ways. And I feel like what makes it realistic is that they don't have just one other NPC in acknowledgement or one other player in acknowledgement. Usually when we make an NPC, if it wants to attack a player, it just goes to the player. Or if it wants to attack an NPC, it just goes to the NPC. But it has to take into account all the other NPCs around him. And I feel like this is what makes them feel a lot more alive. So here we have a flocking birds that try to stay in groups a little bit in development. But as you can see, it's been incredibly fun working on this. We want to make sure we also make this as performant as possible. We use a concept called KD trees in each chunk to get the nearest voxel for the bird to go to. And this basically enables us, with this optimization, we want hundreds of NPCs in the game, and I think we can do it. Future plans. I want Orca as a library. I've mentioned some game ideas to you and what this can be used for, and it's something I definitely absolutely want to see. So releasing that as a library, once I make sure it's completely optimal, use some of the new micro-profiling. Hopefully it'll be work. And so we can think about combining it with decision-making systems as well. And we're thinking about trying to make sure that if they flock in a group, they're sharing the same goal. They're not both all calculating it at the same time. That would be a great thing for performance. These developments have been in the service of Harp Isles, and we're so proud of of all the work we've done so far. The team has been amazing, and we're trying to bring these untapped industry methods from games like Horizon Zero Dawn and just bring them onto Roblox, not just for us to use, but for everyone to use. And then we can experiment with those machine learning techniques and possibly make a library for that as well. All right. So if you want to join, this is a really great community, and this is just barely tip of the iceberg when it comes to the performance or trying to make this lifelike realistic world. We have a ton of foliage that you can interact with, and there's a ton of optimization that goes behind that as well. Beautiful terrain, beautiful creatures and all of that, and beautiful environment, and it's just been so fun to make, and I can't wait to keep on working on more of it. So we have an awesome community if you want to join it. I have to wait for the video to finish playing to skip the slide. And so I don't have a Patreon or nothing, but the other game I've been working on is Threadville, a puppet horror game. It has its custom animations, custom cutscenes with custom sounds. It just looks absolutely amazing. Some of the cutscenes just feel like a movie. It's really that good. And so if you come across me later today, you can get one of these stickers, added to your swag bag. I'll be outside if you want to do that. But for the next few minutes, I'll just be watching the other lightning talks. Yeah. Here are the citations of that stuff. And so if I can take questions right now if you'd like. Oh, yep. Yeah.
So does each bird in those videos run off of their own script instance, or do they all run off of one script that handles all of them?
Okay, so yeah, so the good thing about these systems is that it doesn't rely on central coordination, so they can be completely parallelized. So each individual bird is operating on its own. It's only taking in the information and just doing it itself. However, for optimization performances, if we have two birds that happen to be close enough together and two goals that are close enough together, then we can just have them share the same path, because sometimes that may help with performance quite a bit. Right. If you have any questions, you can just always contact me on TikTok and Twitter. This is something I'm really passionate in, and some of the stuff I want to talk about in private, you can. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That was great. Now we're going to have Zaid talking about why adding accessibility is super impactful to the user experience. So we're just getting that ready right now.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh.
We're going to give a round of applause for Zaid.
Thank you. I know, so accessible. I can do it. Perfect. All right. All right. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming over and watching my talk on why adding accessibility is impactful to the user experience. Okay, so a little bit about myself. My name is Zaid Aboufelat. I'm also known as Wooly Wool. I joined Roblox when I was 9 years old back in 2012. I mainly do programming, working on different games such as Steep Steps, Boxing Fighter Simulator, Mermaid Castle Tycoon, Ballin', and etc. I also had the opportunity of interning summer of 2023 at Roblox under developer relations, and also had the opportunity of participating in Summer Accelerator in 2022, working alongside 4 talented creators. So, to start, what is accessibility? Accessibility is defined as products, services, and environments, or services. So it's able to be used by people with disabilities. We see it everywhere, that ramps, elevators, everything. I'm literally a Terminator, out in public, trying to find different accessible routes, especially at this venue. And according to the World Health Organization, an estimated 1.3 billion people, or 16% of the world's population, experiences significant disabilities. Our goal in making games is we want anyone to be able to play it, and adding accessibility options is putting us one step closer to doing so. There are various different types of disabilities, but I brought it down to 3 of the most common types on Roblox, which are physical disabilities, vision impairment, and hearing impairment. Games have implemented features like custom keybinds, subtitles, sound visualization, color adjustments to accommodate those with accommodate those who are disabled. But how do these accessibility options, impact that user experience? So today I'll be honing in on 3 different accessibility options: visualizing sound, coloring, and custom keybinds. So let's get to it. So imagine your game without sound. When your game is solely relying on sound, you're risking alienating your hearing impaired audience, and it puts them at a disadvantage in gameplay, which also reduces the quality of your gameplay experience. Creators can combat this through different ways depending on what your game is. So for instance, on the left side of the presentation, there's this visual that's showing you essentially this UI that's moving in a circular motion that's essentially pointing towards where an audio source is near. And as you're getting closer to it, the transparency is changing so that it's becoming a little more obvious that you're getting closer and closer to it. Another way is if there's some sort of voice acting. You can use subtitles so people are able to read what's going on. And finally, another example is, for instance, if there's an object that the player has to use, for instance, a phone, you can animate it or use particles to show that there's something happening with it. Additions like these improve the user experience because we are letting the player know that something is happening through sound visualization, and we don't want to put the player at a disadvantage when they're trying to play this game if the game is solely relying on sound. And just a pro tip, if you're playing your game and if you want to test out to see if your game can be played by those who may have hearing impairments, just set it on mute. And if you can't play it, it's kind of a problem. So you got to figure out what you have to do in order to do so, and this could be a good example of doing so. Next. So imagine like viewing your game and it's in like grayscale, or like viewing your game on like with like different color combinations that may strain your eyes. I'm so sorry about that one with the blue and red, not blue and red, the green and red. If it's really hard for you to play it, or it's just like straining your eyes a bit, that's a problem. And you're also you're like risking of like alienating those with vision impairments, and of course putting a disadvantage on those who are trying to play it in the gameplay. Creators can combat this through various different ways, like for instance, choosing good color combinations. You don't want to have a combo that like strains your eyes when you're looking at it, like the green and red one. A like pro tip to like try to combat this is there's this really nice website called Adobe Color Picker. It's free, and you're able to put in different color combinations, and it'll give you like a really good like different options that you can use with that color that you wanted to try out. Also, secondly, for those who are colorblind, they can't really see the difference between different color combinations. So for instance, if you're like using red text on a green background, they won't be able to read that text because they can't really tell the difference. It's just kind of one color to them. So that's like one thing to consider. And also another consideration is like while you're working with like different UI frames, you might want to consider like grayscale vision, which essentially everything is just gray when they're looking at it. And if there are buttons that are of significance when looking at it, and you can't really tell the difference, for instance, if you're trying to choose a team, that's also like kind of a problem. And a lot of people can combat this by like putting different icons on like those UI things. Like for instance, I don't know, the sun team, the moon team. Just depends on what your game is all about. All right. Okay. So just a little bit of background about me. I don't usually talk about this, but I thought it'd be very important to do so. I was born with the physical disability arthrogryposis. Essentially what that does is it makes it hard for me to bend my knees because I'm just so limited on that rotation. I also, like, there's just like different things I just can't do. For instance, I can't ride a bike. I can't play games that are like really fast paced. Like I'm really bad at it, but it's also kind of fun because it's really funny. But also, for like moving my character around, I can't use WASD. I always use the arrow keys to like move like my character around because it's just really difficult for me. I get really tired trying to do so. So like in many different games, creators create keybinds which are essentially set actions that are toggled to something. So for instance, like E to toggle, shift to sprint, etc. So like being physically disabled, custom keybinds like resonate with me a lot just because I'm able to change the controls around to my own liking, and I'm able to play the games however I need to. So like imagine like you're trying to play a game and like you just can't play it because you're not able to change the controls, or the controls are just too much on you. It's just not fun. So being able to add in custom keybind settings would allow you to be able to change up how you want to play it. And it's also allowing for those who may have physical disabilities to accommodate their needs by doing so. As I brought up, like creators can combat, with the physical disabilities with like custom keybinds, for instance, like the example that's being shown on left from Rivals. And like another thing I wanted to bring up was like with the WASD, most of the time it's by default you're able to use arrow keys to move around, but sometimes like for instance if you like lock your camera or something, you can't really move your character, you're kind of just stuck there. So consider trying to implement, the arrow key movement. All right. So remember, our goal as creators is we want anyone to be able to play our game. And as I brought up, adding accessibility options is putting us one step closer to doing so. And by doing your due diligence as creators and adding those accessible options for players, like the examples I brought up and different methods that are out there, it enables them to fully experience your games in ways that accommodate their disabilities. I hope this lightning talk enlightened you on different ways of adding accessibility to your game. After 2 weeks from now, I better see accessibility in all of your games, all right? All right? Thank you so much. Awesome. Q&A? All right. Any other questions? All right. Yeah.
Pretty good presentation. What are some of the best examples on Roblox,
I have to say, like right now, I enjoyed playing Rivals a lot, just because I'm able to like change the controls around and like play it like how I would like to, even though I'm like really bad at like first-person shooters. But like it made it a lot simpler for me when I was like trying to change around to different settings. I know Bad Business also has like a bunch of like different keybind settings that you can do. Those are like kind of the first two that come to me that like kind of like affect my like gameplay. So, yeah. Yes, Lauren. Yeah. So like the first thing that kind of came to mind when you brought that up was I know Northwestern University had this like whole video on like different vision impairments. It just kind of gave you like a glimpse of like someone that may like not be able to like see like their vision is like completely different. So I found that to be really helpful, especially when I'm trying to design my games and like decide where I want to put the UI or how big I want the UI to be. I know for like a lot of different games, UI buttons on like mobile or even on like desktop, it's just kind of like really tiny to press on, which kind of does make it a little bit harder for me to like play different games. So that was kind of the first one I thought of. I know there's like this website, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it also kind of gave you like a list of like do's and don'ts, like working with like different like disabilities and what you can consider. I think it was like really oriented towards like creating games. So I wish I knew what it was. I would totally like link it. Any other questions? Nope.
A round of applause for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. And next up, we have Unite. He's gonna talk. Woo!
The audio on my. I needed a stage for that. All right. How's everybody's RDC? Good? You enjoying it? Just want to make a shout out to Ashcraft because you finally got to your first RDC and you're finally there. Shout out Ashcraft. Do you guys like what I did with the RDC thing, by the way? It says RDC and I was like, nah, it's Roliday. Perfect. So my name is Oshin. I also go by Unite on the platform. I've been around since 2010. I've made a couple of games on Roblox. I've done the egg hunt, creator challenges. I primarily specify in UI design. I create UGC on the side. And I recently sold physical merchandise of some of my UGC, including this one. But every year, I work on the longest running and largest creative community event, Roliday. Today, I'm here to give you a brief look back and more of a retrospective on it. So today, we're going to be taking a brief look back at Roliday, the series of community events. We're going to be speaking about the history. We're going to be talking about the process for making it, including how we pioneered the spirit of the community with every year, and including principles for designing the yearly map and our branding and monetization strategies. So, what is Roliday? Roliday is a community-created event ran over the last 6 years. It takes place every December with the goal of letting the Roblox community hang out. It's initially created to accommodate a small group of people, and now we have reached peak player counts of 30,000 CCUs, which I believe makes us the largest community-created event on Roblox, so it's pretty cool to know. So, yeah, every year we create a yearly museum to allow different creators to display their work that they made for the current year. And yeah, I meant to post those. So every year I enlist a different group of developers to keep the development cycle fresh. And primarily Roliday is also for chatting, to play mini games, and to ring in the new year of our annual New Year's ball drop. The museum has been a tradition since 2019, and we include creations ranging from art to 3D models created by developers both big and small. And there are a number of you in here that have contributed to Roliday, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. So, I'll give you a bit of prehistory. So, Roliday initially existed as RDC Christmas, and if you remember this, you are liable for compensation. It was ran by Yisko. I don't know if he's in the room, but if you are, please make some noise. Oh, there you are. He is the man that started this all off. So, It was a place for the Roblox Twitter community to hang out during the holidays. RDC Christmas included a gallery of artwork. The RDC was very, very small in 2015, and I remember player counts being about 30 in the server, which was huge at the time. And yeah, I continued the yearly tradition of RDC Christmas, and Yisco passed the torch down to me, and I changed the name to be a bit more inclusive, and Roliday was born from there, from 2018. So, a bit of a history. So, Roliday 2018 was our first year. In comparison to our events, it was purely a hangout spot. In 2019, we designed a larger and more vertical map, encouraging explorability. We also had our first Roliday Rumble in collaboration with Jackeries. I don't know if you're in the audience, but hey. And we have since open sourced for other players to use our tech. We created the museum that year, and it's been a hit ever since. In 2020, we had our first New Year's ball drop alongside a miniature badge hunt. We incorporated mini games, including Connect 4, Mancala, Tic-Tac-Toe. And in 2021, we were extremely fortunate to have the opportunity to be sponsored by Roblox for our event. And we created a more fleshed out side game called Roliday Rumble, which built on the Rumble mechanics from 2019. This is also the first year that we allowed UGC creators to have their own stalls to sell their creations, which was a huge success. In 2022, we introduced the ice skating mechanic, which players loved. And in 2023, we took the mechanics from previous years and jumbled it all together. We had a 12 days of UGC program, and we had 12 different creators creating different UGCs, and it was awesome. So, for our map design. So in designing map for Roliday, we start with a location theme, and we create a spider web layout, joining important areas together. This layout is essential for us that it creates hotspots for players to hang out at. We usually encompass the largest area of a bonfire, which acts as our spawn landmark. So we design plazas as open spaces populated with objects that players are likely to congregate around. Plazas don't need to be easy to access. Some of our areas have a minor platforming challenge to reach, causing players to travel there out of curiosity. And we place benches and foliage on the top of buildings to indirectly instruct players to explore hidden points of interest. We've also discovered that players love to break out of the map, so we reward their efforts with a few secret points of interest around the map, benches, trees that imply they're places to sit and rest. Players also love moving unanchored parts around our map, so we've unanchored a few parts, including a big cheese wheel that players also seem to love. And after the layout is completed, the map is blocked out to get an idea of scale, density, and landmarks before sketching out the scenery with that year's chosen theme in mind. Now, hopefully this plays. I might have to click play on this. Awesome. So, we have had 200 contributors to Roliday. So if you see yourself on this list, feel free to scream, feel free to cheer. This is awesome to make. Shout out Pays. Pays did all of this, and I owe everything to him. Yeah, it's awesome. So over 100 games have contributed to Roliday over the years, with over 62 billion combined visits, which is also insane for a community event. So for our marketing and branding, we use unconventional promotion through marketing tactics. Back in 2021, I did guerrilla marketing with the 3 biggest Roblox news accounts, and I made them tweet out pictures with no context, and it got people talking. It relies on word-of-mouth advertising through Twitter or game collaborations, and we are purely funded by the community. Roliday is organized as a predominantly volunteer effort, and we never expect to make the money back that we put into Roliday. Do not make a community event the way we do unless you're willing to take that risk. And you can see on the bottom left, it's the logo evolution over the years that I've made. So, community-led events are the future of Roblox, alongside the rewarding feeling from fueling the community spirit. I don't recommend making a community event the way we do, again, unless you wish to take that risk. Community events create more connections and bring 2 different sides of the community together, and the benefits outweigh the cost tremendously. And we want more people to do this. Community-led events are indeed the future of Roblox. So you may be wondering what's next for Roliday. So I hope you all enjoyed this. It's been in the making for a bit, and hopefully it plays. I'll move that mouse cursor out of the way. darn right. And you know, what's an award show without a host, am I right? Creekcraft, you here? Get up here. If you want to submit your trailer right now, if you have one and you want it shown, this will be live streamed. Creekcraft's going to be live streaming it. Creekcraft's going to be hosting. We did this. Thank you all so much. I don't know if I'm running over time. I don't know if I have time for questions, but yes, this is it. We have done it. It is the Creator Awards. Made by Roliday. Shout out Lena177. Shout out Epic Drew. They made the map. Shout out Trelliker. Shout out Popstar Piranhas. Shout out Crossstar Cross. Aiden. I can't remember your new username. Invader Puppy. Latchy. I don't have a use. There's so many people to shout out, but it genuinely means so much from the bottom of my heart that you all contributed to this. And shout out to Creekcraft for wanting to do this. It is incredible. I'm so excited. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks so much, man. Yeah, I think we go this way.
Thank you so much, Unite. Okay, now we have Annalise. I know, but wow. There you go. Right. All right. All right.
So, how are y'all doing? So I'm so glad I'm going after that, because what a great use of marketing. And what are we about to talk about? More marketing. So thank you for that segue, Oshin. So, all right, let's get started. As you can hear, my voice is dead. Let's ignore that. So who am I? So hi, my name is Annalise Shore. I am also known as Sparklings on the platform. I've been on the platform for about 15 years now, which is quite long. I mostly focus in art and animation. I've worked on projects such as Apple Picking Simulator, and I've contributed assets to projects such as Blacksburg and Royal High. And yeah, I also am a new college grad. I just graduated. Thank you. I just graduated in the spring with my bachelor's in marketing from Michigan State University, so that is super exciting. So let's just first talk about what is the difference between content branding and personal branding, because there is a very clear difference. Content branding, I'm using something from my lovely accelerator project here as an example of content branding, which would be for your game, or if you're, a video star, for your content. So, that would be like a YouTube video, thumbnail, how you're marketing the game itself. Now, personal branding is all about you, and this could even apply to if you're running a solo studio or you're running a studio in general. You could also apply a lot of these tactics to that. So that's more just about who you are as an individual on this platform. And obviously, all of you have a unique creator identity and creator tag, and that's probably what you would use, or a studio name. So, okay, why should I care about this? I'm marketing my game, I'm marketing my videos. Why should I even care about marketing myself, Well, first off, everyone wants to get to know you, Why not, show people who you are? But let's get into some actual points here. So personal marketability, like I said, you need to have the same process for your personal marketability as you do for your game or for your platform. You like to optimize your thumbnails, like Sky said, or you like to, optimize how you get people to click on your YouTube videos or your TikTok content. But you got to make sure that you do the same process for your individual self. I mean, audience loyalty is huge. An audience that trusts you is going to support you no matter what. Let's say you're working on a first-person shooter right now, and you decide, oh, I don't know, I'm going to make a fashion game next. Do you really think your audience is going to support you if you just jump from that and they have no idea who you are, have no idea the quality that you put out? No, they're probably not. They're just going to play a different first-person shooter. So you definitely want to have people that are going to stick to you as an individual so that you can jump from project to project with ease. And first impressions are extremely important. 55% of first impressions are visual, so you gotta make that first visual that people see count. When people like a game, usually I like to go on someone's Roblox profile or like their social media to find out more about them. So that's really important, those first steps. All right, I've told you why this is all very, very important, but how are we doing this? First off, target audience. I'm sure all of you probably know what a target audience is, but in case you don't, this would be like the group of people that you want to target to play your game or watch your videos. And choosing a target audience is the most vital step in deciding what you want your personal brand to be. And this is really, really, really easy through, utilizing analytics. Analytics are going to help you inform what groups are engaging with you the most. So this is, your Roblox creator dashboard, YouTube Studio. There's also, I know, tools on TikTok and other social medias that are going to tell you, the age demographics, the gender, where they're from, etc. All of those points are extremely, extremely important in deciding what your target audience is going to be. And now this can be super broad or extremely specific. It is all up to you. If you want it to be broad, it could be just anyone who likes pets. Or it could be as extremely specific as, first-person shooter game player that plays on a computer in the country of Brazil between the ages of 17 to 20. It can be whatever you want. That would be a lot harder to market. I don't recommend that, but definitely do something else than that. But your strategy for your audience is extremely important. What have you done up until this point that you want to maybe rebrand or try something new? You have to have it reflect what you've done in the past and also what you want to do in the future. For example, a younger versus an older demographic. How you market yourself to kids is a lot different how you market yourself to adults. I'm sure all of you know that when you're marketing your games. It also is with your brand. Let's say you get a little bit risky. You like to swear a little bit. That's bad if you have kids. But if you want to maybe transition into a younger demographic, you have to keep that in mind before you make that switch. But all right, I talked a lot about some, boring stuff, but now it's time to get creative. What is fun about you? What do you like? It could be your favorite animal. It could be your favorite pet. It could be a favorite symbol you like. It could be a favorite font you like. It could be even your Roblox avatar. That is actually the most common one that I see a lot is people like to make a unique Roblox avatar and then get art commissioned to that, or they draw their own art, and that's how they market themselves. Very, very common, but very effective. And also, favorite food, your favorite accessory, your favorite Roblox item, your favorite color, even just a funny personality that you have. That is marketable. Anything that you could think of as marketable is probably marketable. So get creative. Think about what you like about yourself and what you want to show to the world. And diving a little bit more into that, color palettes. So a company called Reboot did a study that showed 80% increase in customer recognition when they were thinking about a signature color. Think about, IKEA. Whenever I think of IKEA, I'm looking at my shirt, you know what I mean? But also Brat Summer. Everyone knows the Brat Summer colors. It's Brat Summer. That's just instant color marketing, and it is so, so, so effective. So I really recommend, even if you're doing those other points, maybe you have a favorite font already and you have an avatar that you love, make distinct signature colors. That is very important. And you want to personalize it. You want to choose colors that represent you. And I know in our community, black, red, blue, red, I already said that. Black, white, blue, red, those are the very most common that you're going to see. But, still pick those. If you feel like those represent you, stick with it. But, let's put this to the test. Now, there's not going to be any wrong answers, so don't feel bad and don't get shy. And the person I'm thinking of might be in this room right now. Let's see. Who does this remind you of? Shout it out. Who's here right now in the back? It's Mini Dune. No, shush. You're not here now. No, but obviously, bam, instantly recognizable. See how a bunch of you thought of Mini Dune? And he's here. That's great. And bam, there you go. That is an instantly recognizable color scheme, and all of you can do that as well. And as I said before, consistency is key. Once you have something that you think you like, you have to stick with it. I know it's hard because like sometimes you see like a new trend in the community and you're like, ooh, what if I like change up my stuff? Don't. You want to stand out as an individual and you want that to reflect you. So, following current trends that are gonna come and they're gonna come and go, you don't want to do that. You want to stick with something once you've found it. And so let's, use some of my tips with a fake developer that I've just made up. I guess if you want an alt account that has a pre-made brand image, congratulations, this account is not made yet. So here you go. But you're gonna have to make up your own new personality. So this person that I just made up in Catalog Avatar Creator is named Ray. And she loves drinking matcha lattes while she's programming her game and she's developing. She's very chill, she's a very laid back person. And she needed my help with branding. She's like, I don't know what to do. Here's my current avatar. What do you suggest for me? Now, I am no graphic artist. I am a very, hobby artist. So don't judge my logo skills here. But this would be something that I think would be a fun little branding for her, making sure that she has some distinct colors, that kind of cream color alongside the green and the brown, and having something like that is a more fun and playing and laid back font. But also, if you notice a little detail, I put a little bow on the second O, and this could be a symbol that people recognize her with, the white bow with the matcha, with the colors, and those are all different identifiable symbols for this developer that does not exist yet. And so, I've talked a lot about all this stuff, but I would like to shout out some people in the community, of course, because I love the Roblox community. So let's see, who has done this very well? My first and foremost person would be Polar Cub. She's not only a video star, but she also is a UGC creator. She's fantastic. And whenever I think of her branding, I think, a bear icon and then the color pink or the color white, and that is her. She's consistent with this branding across all of her fields, whether it be her website, her YouTube channel, her Roblox profile. Everything that you can think of that she's on, she is using this branding, and that is very important. Her avatar is so cute, it's memorable, it reflects her personality. She has 2 different mascots, which I find really interesting, and I think she utilizes both of those symbols really well, and her colors are distinct and they're memorable. I know a lot of people think white and pink for girly stuff, but I can't think of anyone else in the community with white and pink except thinking of her. And she's always thinking of ways to innovate. She made a UGC bundle of her, identical brand image, which I thought is really cool. And she's always working on new stuff. So that is awesome. And so my second shout out is someone that you might all be familiar with, is Who's Trade. I think he is just so silly and so fun. And something that I love about his marketing is that he markets it around his personality, which I think is really, really unique. I mean, obviously, his avatar is very, very fun. He told me to include the one with the man face, by the way. That wasn't of my own volition. I was forced. I'm sorry. But he is a UGC creator, and he's known for his just absolutely wacky personality and his avatar. He's very good at social media marketing. He's very maximalist, he's fun, he always has something eye-catching and engaging with all of his stuff, and even with all of his UGC projects, he keeps it consistent by having, bananas in everything. That's something that you wouldn't associate with a cow, but that's what makes him so memorable. It's just so cool. And, he's consistent, as I said, with his branding and his imagery across all of his social medias. And yeah, so that is just 2 people from our community who I think are great. And, there's so many other people that I can think of already that do this great. I mean, I already shouted out Minitoon, Oshin that just went awesome. I love all of his symbols. He's so good at branding. There's just so many people that I think are very memorable. Even Creecraft with his iconic beanie. I mean, how could you miss him? I mean, these are all just different things. So yeah, you got this. I know all of you might not be, marketing professionals. You're here to make a game or you're here to make videos, and that's what you're good at, and that's why you're here. You're all experts at what you do, but you can always be an expert in new things as well. So yeah, any quick questions? Anyone? No? All right, yeah. Oh yeah, no, colors are
I'd say it's the most important thing. Because I feel like a lot in the community, I see a lot of really cool like black and white logos, which like can be like super, super cool. But I don't remember any of them. But if you have a really fun and wacky color combination, like another one that I'm thinking of right now is Bella with the watermelons and, you know, like the really bright pinkish red and the neon green. I mean, it immediately comes to mind. I think if you have a set color scheme that you stick with, that is going to stick with people the most. And that's just what research shows as well. Like Reboot is a company that does, you know, search optimization, and they found a study that essentially they showed people a bunch of logos, and people would not remember the name of the company. Like I think it was 60% of people would not remember the name of the company, but they would remember the colors that they saw. So I think color is like the #1 importance there. But yeah, any other questions? Hi.
How would you go about doing a rebrand? Because I have the kind of whole black and white logo issue as well. So I'm wondering what would you recommend for doing if you wanted to do a rebrand?
Right. So black and white logo. Again, still a classic. But I say if you still like your current brand imagery other than the colors, I wouldn't change much about your other branding that you've already set, you know, with your community, but maybe just like a little refresh with like colors, or maybe you add in like a new symbol or a new something that goes with that, or like even just like a new font to your overall logo. Like let's say your Twitter banner, you want to get a new Twitter banner to have it, and like obviously people usually write out their username or their tag on their Twitter banner. You could do a new font, commission a new logo, or make a new logo yourself and introduce some new colors there, but definitely still have some familiar elements from your last branding so that it's not such a complete rebrand that everyone is like, who is this person I'm following? What, I'm mutuals with them? I have no idea who this is. Unless that's your goal. I mean, some people want to completely abandon their own identity, but if you want to make sure people still know who you are, that's my advice. Yeah. Any other questions? If not, totally fine. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sparklings. I feel like I need to incorporate some of those personal branding. So now we have Jurian and Taylor from GameFam who are going to give us a audio crash course. Here.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And a clicker. That's also very important. Behaviour first.
That's great. Yeah. That's some screen touch.
Cool. Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Give everyone a second to get out.
Yeah, let's like leave it for a second. Shuffling it up.
Cool.
Is it falling out? Cool. Hello? Aren't we all so glad that we have sound and audio to use as a way to communicate to our audience? No, it's really good to be here. Really be awesome to talk to you all at RDC. Really glad you're all here to talk about or I'm here to talk about our talk with Jurian. So we're here to chat about how to leverage audio and music in your experience to immersify it a little bit further. So this is Jurian Dreger. He's 28, located in the Netherlands. He's a senior engineer and a Robloxian since 2007. He's a theater major, and he's also an experienced designer.
Awesome. And this is Taylor Field Draper. For guys that don't know him, he is Trust Me, I'm Russian, right? The really amazing, artist and currently creative director at GameFam. Has been on the platform since 2008, so we are old, guys. You don't have to remind us. Thank you. And he's the author of the ultimate Roblox game building cookbook. So yeah.
Awesome. There you go, Taylor. Thank you. So now that you know who we are, we're going to get into the meat of the topic here, and we're going to talk a little bit about audio and see what we can learn today. So through this talk, we're going to be talking about 4 different key pillars. We're going to first talk about why audio matters and why you should care, the challenges with audio, the solutions that we've come up with to overcome these different challenges, as well as how to level it up. So how are you able to level up the audio in your game? So higher quality games get better engagement and keep players invested. So to get there, we have to adopt the craft of AAA games, and that requires better audio. So sound is a very wonderful thing. It can help set the mood. It can convey information to the player, perhaps what direction they're getting shot at, if they're buying a locked item, if they're opening a door. And it can actually invoke a whole range of emotions. It can make you feel calm. It can make you feel intense. Faster tempo will actually raise your heartbeat. So we could all maybe actually argue the fact that without audio, even the most best visuals in the experience, and I say that as a builder, it can be still left feeling hollow and empty. So, So when playing your favorite game, you can note how an appropriate soundtrack can tell a story that visuals alone cannot. I'm not sure if you could recognize any of those games, but an appropriate soundtrack is very memorable, and usually that's actually one of the things that you'll remember from playing an experience or a game. So here's another example with different sound regions across a map, and how by applying these, you can actually change the entire mood and the entire feeling of different environment regions and help to immersify the player within that region and make it feel like you're going from one spot to a different spot through the difference in audio. Technical difficulties. Exactly. So the first pillar is challenges. One of the biggest challenges that we all face as Roblox developers is simply the team size. Being Roblox devs, we're very used to just working either solo, maybe with 1 or 2 people, friends. But in AAA experiences, usually you have 10, 15, 20, 25 people working just on the audio aspect of the game. So, how do you get it done? Another big factor is there's a lot of variables to take into consideration when you're actually working on video game audio compared to cinematic audio. So many different variables, including what pavement are they standing on, what material, are they indoors, are they outdoors, what weapon or item are they holding, and not even what that player is hearing, but what's the other players in the server hearing, how far away are they? So there's a lot of different variables you have to take into consideration when designing it. Another factor, the third one, is the very limited tooling that we sometimes have. So we were actually able to provide, or Jurian was able to create a lot of really cool tooling for our different experiences to help speed up the workflow. And then finally, audio searchability is always a challenge. We actually had a key point earlier today in one of the earlier talks talking about that. So how do you optimally search for audio, and how do you then choose and pick the different audios that best fit your experience? So this is a very small tidbit of a sound production sheet we were putting together. There's probably 500 different lines on that thing. This is about like 50 of them. But as you can see, it's a very long process that we had to engineer and plan beforehand, actually building the game. If you build it around the audio, it just doesn't feel right. You have to design the sound first and then design the environments around the audio. So then you can actually really bring out the theme for these different areas. So for our third point, let's look at some of the tooling. I'm going to actually hand this over to Jurian so he can talk a little bit about his work.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. We made a couple different tools right here. First of all, we're going to talk about discovery, picking up the sounds, creating the stage, and then, of course, creating the mix. So let's look at the first point. We worked with an amazing audio partner that's in the back here called Audioscape, and Audioscape makes our audio custom for us. And they also have some really great algorithms there, and they made this really great audio search tool. Yeah, for sure. Click on it. So what you see here is they basically scraped the entire catalog that Roblox has to offer, and they added ways for you to basically look at footsteps, right? And then you get a track, and you could basically click on a button more like this, or add some more search parameters, and it would actually give you the sound that you're looking for, right? And that's a really essential piece of picking the right sound, picking something that fits with your game. So yeah, that was a really great help. And other than that, they worked with us directly to make custom sounds for our game. So yeah, it was really nice. Let me continue here. There you go. So once we were satisfied with all the different sounds that we now had to clip them, right? Sounds needs to be spatial, they need to be 3D, and to make that happen. We use the volt emitters, or we call them volt emitters, and they're basically like spatial audio placed in the scene. But then the problem arises, how do you actually figure out where the audio is coming from? And, with all those different emitters going on at the same time, we have in the same scene 20 or 50 different sounds. And now we had the issue I'm hearing some birds there, I'm hearing a train there, but how do I actually mix that, right? How do I actually set the volume of that, and make sure that there are no dead spaces, right? Spaces without audio, because there's no emitter there. So we made this really great tool, which is basically a visual debugger. So you see the spheres over there, right? And the spheres basically showcase the distance that a model emitter has, right? So that you could actually figure out how everything was working behind the scenes. So yeah, going on the next slide. This one here. So, we talked about, we now have an audio file, right? And we now have to clip that somehow in a 3D environment. But now the issue arises what actually makes great audio? So one of the issues that we had is, currently in our game, we are working on gun sounds, right? And what actually makes a gun sound good? Well, you need to have a mechanical layer, a punch layer, and some type of follow-through, right? And all those different assets need to be mixed, separately from each other, right? Based on the parameters that Taylor mentioned, are you inside? Are you outside? You need to treat the mix differently. So that's why we're saying hey, instead of a singular sound for your pistol, maybe, add some layers to it, right? So that you can actually separate the mix and mix it depending on the environment that you're in. Here's an example of that. So in this video, you saw, okay, we have a stock sound from the Creator Store, right? And that didn't sound great. Now we actually added layers to it. Now we actually added some, mix to it accordingly, and then we added some reverb effects to, mix it all together, right? So yeah, next time if you're working on a gun sound, guys, please, look at some layer support, look at your punch layer, make sure that it really sounds great for your audience. And the other thing that I would say is variance, right? People can really get upset with you if you have the same sound on repeat the entire time, and especially with a gun, that they're shooting in rapid suspension. If it sounds all the same, they're not going to be interested anymore in your audio. And what they're going to do then is they're just going to turn the volume down and they're just going to turn on their Spotify track instead, right? And that's not what we want. So what you want to do here is you want to add variance to the mix, right? So make 20 different sounds for, your gun shooting so that you can actually, make it more randomized and make it more interesting for your audience to listen to it. All right, I have the clicker in my... Yeah, you can click. Awesome. There you go. You have to click next. Yep. All right, so, we have some great sounding guns now, guys, but now we come with the next issue. And the next issue is that is just one part of the equation, right? We don't only have guns, we also have, our world emitters, our environment sounds that we just showcased to you all. And we also have, UI sounds, sounds from our shop. Everything is really coming into that. And Roblox is also a multi-platform environment, right? It is not only about your desktop that you guys are working on every single day. A large portion of your audience is on mobile. Also, a portion is on console. I'm not one of them, but some people play on console, and that has to be mixed separately from the others, right? That is an entirely different environment. Players are sitting way across you all of a sudden, So to do that, we need to separate everything in layers. And Roblox has something new, the new Audio Engine API. If you guys never looked at it, look it up. It's really amazing. Awesome. I have one of the engineers here. So what they do is they allow you to basically put wires in between, so you can actually create audio faders, so you can actually create, separate bus groups almost that you can mix accordingly, right? So this is just a diagram of, only like 2 or 3 buses of our entire mix. We have like 25 buses for all the different sounds that come into our game. So yeah, on top you see, the guns, all the different audio clips that go into it, some audio effects, right, that gets mixed, accordingly. Here, I have a bigger one. So here's your audio faders, that goes in the mix bus again for combat, audio effects on top of it to, compression, reverb, an equalizer to boost, your low end. That goes back into your main mix and that goes in device out, right? And that is really what your sound diagram almost needs to look like to make it, sound great for all the different platforms that we need to support these days on Roblox. Yeah. You want to?
Sure. So some different key takeaways you can take from this talk. The first one would be to design with audio in mind from the very beginning of your experience in the game creation. Don't have it as a later afterthought because it will sound like an afterthought. The second thing is carefully select your audio so it actually matches one another. We actually just showed that Audioscape tool that you can help search and find different audios that sound similar to one another. So if you guys want a QR code for that, we're definitely happy to share that. It's now public for everyone. The third thing is organize your sound into groups, layers, so your sound effects, your UI, your ambient environment, your music, and mix them accordingly.
So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask us. We are also going to be outside afterwards, so feel free to come up. Yeah, go ahead. So the question was, how do you mix for low-end devices? So we are actually talking to the audio engine people over there, and and we are also looking at it because low-end devices, especially with the amount of audio that we have in our game at the moment, right, can become a bottleneck. One of the things that Roblox does is they're using fmod behind the scenes, which is a really big audio API, which also is used by Unreal and the big players in the industry. And they basically are on a separate thread, right? So everything audio is separate from the rest of your code or the rest of your threads. So that really helps. What we try to do, especially with audio, is we try to put all the clips together in one bigger sound file. So then we don't have as much instances anymore, right? So I think that would be a really important one. Make sure that your preloading is small. Great question. Awesome. Yeah, go ahead. Better?
Well, as a world builder, one thing when we were designing our environment originally is how do you make everything feel different? These different, like if you have a city, for instance, how do you make the alleyways sound and feel different than inside of a building? And it's easy to, I guess, throw it in after, but if you have in mind what you expect these different regions to sound like what you want that emotion to come out with the player being in that alleyway, what emotion do you want them to feel from the start? So if you want this to be a very scary alleyway, you find your sounds, you layer them in, you build it out, and then you build the environment around that. You use visuals then model it to fit the sounds. I think that's just an easier way that, at least for me, myself, it's a little bit easier to build the environment around the sounds versus vice versa, because it just doesn't feel as natural or organic, in my opinion, if you're not doing it from the start and designing the sounds from the beginning.
So our audio partner basically tells us, hey, you have to use ODG, right? And I agree with that because it loops, right? It has a smooth loop, fade in and fade out, basically already in the file format. If you're using different ones, it can cause, issues later down the road. So I would definitely go for that file format. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. I feel like I learned so much about audio in that. Okay, now we have George who's going to talk about game design. Here, I'll pull up your stuff. You can get on stage.
Is that clicker, right?
Yeah, that's the clicker.
Cool. Hey, guys. Whoa, there's loads of you. No pressure. Let me just try the clicker a sec. Sweet, okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm George. I work at Spling Point with the guys, Jandel. They're sitting over there. Hey, guys. Now, we work on a lot of games at Spling Point. In fact, here are a few of them. In fact, Jansen kind of stole my thunder in the keynote back there, but we've been doing it for the past few years. I've been at the company for about 4 years now. We really try to have fun, create games, create games we like to enjoy, and create games hopefully you guys like to enjoy as well. Now, quick show of hands. How many of you guys remember playing your first ever Roblox event? How many? Yeah, I see a few. I know, yeah. Now, crazy enough, it's been 16 years since the first ever Roblox Egg Hunt. And you know what's crazy? Just to put that in perspective, I was 6 years old when that came out. Yeah, it was crazy. And I'm 22 now. It makes me feel old. Now, for those of you who have been here for long, I know there's some people who aren't from Roblox, aren't really Roblox veterans. You guys know that events are a really core part of the platform's DNA. It's part of who we are, part of our journey. And now, as Dave kind of mentioned in his keynote, they're back. At a time when we needed them the most, at a time when we're getting nostalgic, and a time when games are more immersive, more equipped to kind of inspire than ever before. But there's a really big question, kind of going into making these kind of events. How do we make a successful event? How can we create an integration that hits the right spots with our players, that maximizes our returns, and keeps players coming back? Events require more focus than normal. It's not just like releasing a normal update. These events are effectively a stress test. You are throwing your game effectively under scrutiny, and it is your job to make sure that you effectively do the best job you can. Well, how do you? Well, we're going to try and answer that today. We're going to look at 2 of our kind of events. We've done 6 this past year. For each, we're going to basically go through kind of the journey of both, kind of see what we learned and what the results were. And then we're going to kind of give you guys a few takeaways. We're going to go over it. So starting off with Steep Steps. Has any of you played Steep Steps before? A few of you? Yeah, there's a few of you. Now, for anyone who has played Steep Steps, you know it is completely rage-inducing. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I have pulled my hair out multiple times just playing it and testing it. We've had it for nearly 2 years. It really blew up last year. It's all about climbing up a mountain with nothing but a ladder, hoping Roblox physics don't break, and praying you don't get pushed off a cliff. The game is extremely rage bait, and it really is the definition of getting back up and picking yourself up again. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you can tolerate high stakes, it's really fun. Here we go. Now, Steep Steps, for the hunt, Steep Steps was kind of had an update developed in a really short time frame. We had 72 hours. It was out of our control, I'll be honest, but despite that, it's a really good illustration of why time management is really important. The sooner you finish, the more QA you can get, it's less stress for you on release day. You really want to get it out of the way. We opted for a scavenger hunt to kind of fit within the scope of the time. It introduced the players to kind of the core loop of Steep Steps, climbing. We have a bunch of quests in the map, and it just kind of slotted right into the format. And we just felt it was natural and a kind of a soft launch into the game. But as you'll see, it was anything but soft. Steep Steps, more like stupid steps. Make the quest easier, I'm going to rage. See, gameplay was brutal, and the feedback was even more brutal. Many new players who were kind of unfamiliar had a rough first-time experience. We kind of underestimated how frustrating some of the game's unique quirks could be, and it kind of got in the way of players' goals, and that's not ideal. But as any studio should, we love feedback, and you guys should too. Events bring a lot of feedback, and it's really important to listen to it. And from this feedback, we kind of found out about 3 major pain points, gave us some long-term lessons that hopefully helped us tackle a couple issues that are kind of common in event games. So the first one is the game's learning curve. The skill required to complete the quest didn't align with the player's motivations. Now, quick show of hands, how many of you play events to get the free items? Be honest, come on, yeah, come on. Now, are you going to choose an easy way to get those items? Or are you going to choose the hard way? Some people like the chase, some people just want to get it over and done with. And if your first-time user experience doesn't prepare people to succeed, you will not see the behavior you want, you won't see the engagement you want, as players will just choose easier paths to get it. For example, for the hunt, you had about 95 games, then you can get all the items. And let's just say Steep Steps, it's got a reputation for being really tricky. And some of those players were like, I don't want to play that game. I'm going to go easy ones. And we kind of made the mistake of placing the quest on kind of a new map. We didn't realize it was super tough, and we kind of had to learn the hard way of having a bunch of players play it first, and we learned from it. The second one was kind of the quest pacing. It was constantly intense. And there wasn't really much downtime, especially when you're kind of climbing up a mountain and anyone could push you off. And not everyone likes that. Some people do, but not everyone. It needs to be open. For events, it has to be open and accessible to all players and all of their goals. And being constantly overloaded can be really jarring. It also prevents players from playing at their own pace, and that means they can't kind of go through in a normal kind of manner that feels comfortable for them. Additionally, the critical path of the quest was kind of super in line with how you progress up the mountain, and that really conflicted the goals, really confused people, and it could have been avoided if the pacing was kind of aligned with players' expectations. And finally, if it loads, Players do have different tastes in difficulty, and when you have one fixed level design, it makes it really hard to adjust for everyone. It causes a lot of moral dilemmas as to what is an accessible level of difficulty for everyone. And in our case, you could argue this could have been because we were stretched for time, but under usual circumstances, we could have definitely controlled it. Now, lucky for us, if it loads, we have a really awesome team. They're sitting over there. I already mentioned them, yeah. And they're really experiencing weekly updates. We listen to the community, got exchanges in within a day, pretty much, but first impressions really matter. Minor issues in the game that we thought were kind of quirks, unique kind of features of the game, were actually significant pain points. It hurt the game in the short term, and it drove players away. Think about it like a house. If the foundation is weak, then any addition you add will be unstable. So it's important to design thoughtfully and ensure you are supporting the player's goals. Because games are a dialogue. You, the designer, are speaking to the player through the decisions you make, and understanding each other is key to growing. So overall, Steep Step still performed pretty well. We got about 11K concurrent players. It was pretty decent. And the game received positive social media feedback for thematic design after we kind of made some changes. Most important, we learned a lot. We learned a ton from kind of our mistakes, and now we kind of applied into our next event, which was Dusty Trip. How many of you played Dusty Trip? Yeah, some of you played it. Now, we were asked to create events for Dusty and Gunfight. I'm going to focus on Dusty here. But Dusty is a road trip sim for anyone who hasn't played it. It's all about driving diverse landscapes with friends, exploring new places, and taking out bosses. It's a fun game. It's one we're actively working on right now, and it's a combination of what we learned so far. So, contrary to the hunt, we actually did have a regular time frame for this. And we thought, it's super important. It's the Roblox, it's the classic event. Why not go a little extra further? We centered this around a new world called the Classic. It was a quest to reach Roblox HQ, travel through 4 checkpoints, and fight bosses. This time we had to kind of introduce ticks. It was a secondary currency that you could spend at a hub and get items. And it really allowed us to kind of take a different approach this time. Steep Steps, we kind of made it integrated into the world. This time we made it an independent world in itself. And it allowed us to kind of give a fresh new take on an experience that welcomes all players. And it allows us to adjust difficulty kind of variably, so to speak. To make gameplay really accessible, we kind of considered, straight off the bat, what does the player do? We designed a lobby with a clear path in mind, using the theme to communicate what exactly you need to do. We try to teach players through their goals. So for example, you see in the middle bottom photo there, is a person trying to pick up a ticks. Now, placing ticks at spawn straight away, first and foremost, there are going to be players there that are going to want to pick up the ticks. But behind that, you're also teaching the player how to pick up something. And then you're also onboarding them into the rest of the game. It introduces the player to the core control scheme, while making victory seem achievable and manageable to the player. The quest pacing was also heavily improved in comparison to the hunt. Checkpoints were kind of spaced out evenly. We took a lot more time to it, and there was plenty of side content. We also kind of omitted a lot of the more complex and stressful elements. We just kept it to the core, like the bits that people like, driving around, playing with your friends. It allowed to keep gameplay engaging and allows players to kind of play at their own pace without kind of have to worry about, resource management or whatever. But the biggest improvement at all with Dusty was to the player's autonomy. We centered gameplay around them. Difficulty was adjusted based on the amount of players that were in and based on their preference. Players could explore, skip, or stop content whenever they wished. And it allows players to choose their own path without having to stop in the middle or leave the game and have to restart. Thematically, we also tried to really deliver strong. And we even managed to license iconic music, Wind of Forwards. You might have heard of it if any of you are classic Roblox players. It really added to the event's kind of atmosphere, especially at the boss battle. And it was jam-packed with nostalgia. It's the coolest boss I made. And it really gave players a slice of classic Roblox, which is what we wanted to deliver. So in the end, hard work paid off. Dusty Trip was extremely well received. We had really strong playtime, strong engagement levels. We had a 10% increase in session time overall. And we even got 5 million daily active users at one point. Really high sentiment with the Quest application of the theme. I think when I went on social media, I was really ecstatic by the fact that everyone had kind of said, oh yeah, it's got classic, it's Balefire, it's 1x1x1. It was really awesome. And the elements of success Could be attributable to longer dev time, but it was mostly from what we learned from the hunt. I doubt players would have enjoyed their experience if we had not considered how they were going to enjoy it. So what are your takeaways from our journey? Well, takeaway 1, understand the magic. Understand the magic of your game, an event you are participating in, and play on what makes it fun. If your game is naturally replayable, you're less susceptible to the risk of kind of an event hijacking that. But if you have a lot of layers, be critical about what your players need to achieve and have fun. Introduce what's core to your game and let them decide if they want to come back or not. But most importantly, try to embrace a theme. Don't go trick-or-treating without your costume. The theme is a source of fun for players too. Don't neglect that. You'll stand out for all the wrong reasons, and then you'll get tons of Twitter stuff. The next one, design your events with intent. Most players will be binging all of the event games at once. Player behavior like that is out of your control, so account for it. Design quests that keep the players' preferences, motivations, and goals all in mind. Non-linear gameplay or objectives you can pick up anytime are pretty good for this, and it allows the player to decide what to do at their own pace, and it makes gameplay theirs and not yours. And finally, the most important one, if it loads. First impressions really matter. Players want a good time, not a long time. Make success accessible, make success intuitive, and make their success something to remember. Because if you set the tone from the beginning, they will come back, because they enjoy it. Anyway, if it loads. Thanks for listening, guys. I can take questions if you guys want, but if you want to talk to me outside, it works too. It's up to you guys. If there's any questions here that you guys want to ask. That sounds good. All right. I'll see you guys in a bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Okay, now we have Flynn, who's going to talk a bit about character design. You got this.
The clicker, hold on, let me put this back.
Yeah. Got it. All for him.
Just waiting for this. Hi, guys. My name is Flynn, and today I'm going to be talking about character design. Yay! This thing, the clicker is not working. The technical difficulties, I'm sorry. Okay, who am I? Yeah, I literally already said my name is Flynn. I'm an artist, 2D, 3D. I like to make concept art. Also, that is my Macintosh. That is a real Macintosh. It is at my house. I forgot to mention, if you probably haven't already noticed throughout RDC, I change my outfit a lot. Like, this is like the 3rd time I've changed my outfit today. And yeah. How do I get this thing to work? Okay, there we go. I've been a Roblox artist for 6 years. And here are some of my examples throughout the years. This one's gonna load. 2019, 2020. Oh man, that was a good year. 2021. Oh my God, that was a good year too. And yeah, over the years, it really looks like I've had a cartoony style, but then I sort of deviated towards like realistic and like paintings, but I can still maintain like a cartoony style overall. All right, so what are you gonna learn about today? My workflow, design process, tips on how to get started with character design, because I know it might be very hard to get ideas, but this will tell you all about it. How to spot memorable parts of a design, and the importance of character design. So why is character design important? Well, first of all, when a player gets into a game, they're gonna see a character, right? And if you make that character memorable enough, the player is gonna remember that the character is from your experience. And hey, maybe they'll play the experience again for the character. Yeah, some people do that. But, sorry, my brain is like blanking out. Oh, I did not mean to click it. Can we go back? I'm so sorry. visually appearing characters are very cool. I've seen a bunch of characters in the community designed by a lot of other people, and I just want to say, you guys do a very good job. And a thoughtful and appropriate character design inspires your experiences community to get involved and be creative, like fan art and just a bunch of really cool community creations, because I think that's something that a lot of people should pay attention to, which is the aspect of community. And I think a thoughtful character design can definitely bring that together. So the main 3 points that I use for character design is style, theme, and placement. Once you determine that you have those 3 points, designing characters is pretty easy. Like, for example, your game has a cartoony style, a low poly style, hey, maybe even realism, you know? Happens nowadays. And then you have your theme. What if it's a horror game? Because you're not going to see a pretty princess in a horror game, right? That wouldn't make any sense. So once you've determined a theme, it's really easy from there to pick up, hey, I need to make a scary monster that's in this sewer, because this game is, I almost tripped. This game is about a scary monster that's in a sewer. And placement. I don't think I see people talk about this a lot, but placement is very important. You see, if you're designing a guide, like the little helper robot from the Hun event, or a shopkeeper, right? Because once you determine that, again, it really does help with the process of coming up with what exactly you're going to do in terms of character design. So the 3-point design strategy can be used for a lot of different things. Weapon design, UI design, UGC and clothing, and a lot more, because there's a lot of things that require design for Roblox experiences. And with a 3-point system like this, it really narrows it down just to 3 points of criteria to build off of. So what do I use? I use Blender, Clip Studio Paint, and Roblox Studio. Some people use Maya. I'm not paying for that. Some people use other paint programs. Really, it's whatever is good for your workflow is the best thing to use. Because at the end of the day, the most thing that's important is your workflow and producing the quality of work that's to your team and yours' standards. So how do I get started? You know, so you can always pick from a color palette. Hey, maybe you see a very inspiring design from another person's game. Just make sure that you're not like heavily referencing off of them. That's not really good. And there's also AI. If you don't know how to draw, no problem. You can definitely generate images or concepts with AI, and you can definitely build off of that, which we will go back to later at some point in this slideshow. So here's my advice on how to get started. I like to find a pattern or a color palette, and I like to use that within the design. And I like to determine like a focal point. Like, what if it has a crazy hat or a cool suit? And I'm like, I want this character to be centered around this item. See, it makes it way more easier to come up with the other little extra bits of design. And don't be afraid to try something that hasn't been attempted before. You know, it's really good to expand on current design that's out there, trying something new. You know, something refreshing is always really nice. And hey, get other people's opinions before finalizing your design, because sometimes your friends also have really good ideas too. So you might be asking, Roblox is, well, mostly 3D, except for some 2D games. How can I take a character that's a 2D concept and put it into a 3D space? Now, I think that's something that some people don't really understand how to do, but I can definitely help out with that here. So I'm a 3D modeler as well as an artist, so I'm kind of the best of both worlds. I like to pay attention to the art style of the concept, and I like to try to mimic the model as closely to it as I possibly could. And again, this will definitely help you with character design. Determine like what character type you're using. R6, R15, maybe it's a custom rig, maybe it's a skin mesh, because there's some design limitations depending on what character type you use. And hey, if something doesn't fit in 3D from the 2D concept, don't be afraid to just scrap that or replace it with something else. And experiment with different modeling techniques. Not all of it has to be low poly or sculpted. You can mix both in between to get the desired look that you want. So I created a character example for this presentation. As you see, we got this little inventor guy here. You know, he's got his little hat, the goggles, the little thing on his waist, and I created a model for it. Right, you can see over here, a final render. See, we can see the elements of design from the concept reflecting the 3D model, which I think is honestly very cool. And I decided to create a final render for this character that I think would definitely capture the idea that I'm going for, which is a crazy mad scientist guy. I think he looks pretty cool. So you might be asking, like I said, some people might not know how to draw or can't really do that. No problem. The process is entirely reversible. You can take something in 3D and make it in 3D first, and then translate that to 2D design. If you know what you're doing and you have those 3 points determined, then either starting point can definitely work out for you. So now let's talk about how memorable a character is. What can we point out on this design? Show of hands. Anybody? You over there? Big hat. Well, that wasn't really on there, but the watch and the hat accents are matching. It's a part of the hat. It counts. There's like a little circle thing on that. Click that again. See? Right there. Yeah. Anything else we can point out? You over there. The colors. That is further down, I think. The goggles have 3 lenses. I just have to go. There's hat and vest has collar detailing. And yes, the color palette is very similar as well. Anything else? Am I just not seeing anyone? All right. Oh, you over there. Sorry. I can see the light was like blinding my face. Oh, the blue arrow's pointing up. Yeah. That's like really similar to the watch and stuff. And there's also the utility belt. Right there too. So, how can I uplift an existing character design? Let's say you already have a character in a game, but you think, hey, I think it needs a little bit more work. Finding a fitting animation style can definitely change the mood and like presentation of a character. For example, we've got him hitting a hammer, but he looks very bored, and then him hitting a hammer, but he looks very happy about it. And that ties into facial expressions. Now, a lot of people's characters don't necessarily have different facial expressions, but it gives more life to a character if you added like maybe even just blinking, mouth moving for dialogue. It's really, really helpful. If your character already has dialogue, try to add some personality to it. You know, maybe make the character evil or nice. Depends on what you're going for. And if the character looks like it's missing something, don't be afraid to add something to it. Just make sure the change isn't like too drastic, because you want to make sure that your community can keep up with it at least. So, AI. Oh man, everyone loves AI. So, like I said, we were gonna get back to this part. If you don't know how to draw, but you wanna visualize something at least, AI is very helpful for that. That's definitely a positive with that. Oh, I did not mean to turn it off. It's good for brainstorming, putting things down, like to see, because like if you only know how to 3D model and you have a concept, you need to be able to see it, right? Because you can't really just do that out of the box, unless you can. And it's very good for generating text for character dialogue, because I know it can be very hard to think of, what can this character sound like? You know, not all of us can really be in the character's shoes and like think like a character. And there are some negatives with AI design, especially with character design. There's the generation style may not look like what the user intended. Have you ever tried to generate a Roblox image with AI and it just comes out with fingers? Like 5 or 6 fingers, and you're like, oh God, that's scary. And it could infringe on other people's art style due to AI training off of other people's art without the artist's permission. And it may be difficult to get the intended design because you have to keep typing the prompt over again, and it might not look exactly what you're envisioning for. So here's some key tips on how to keep your characters professional. It's very important to be professional with character design. And one thing that I really like a lot, and I think a lot of people like a lot, is consistency. It's very easy on the eyes if you can look at a character and be like, hey, I can recognize that. This is very nice to look at. It's not all over the place. Well, unless it is. Again, it's a case-by-case sort of thing. It depends on what you're really doing for your game. Platform-appropriate interactions with the design. I know some games communities are a little bit wild, but it's very good to maintain professionalism and make sure that everything is appropriate and abiding by Roblox's terms of service. And make sure that your design does not infringe on other creators' designs or intellectual property. That's a really big one. So, today we learned 3 main points of character design, why character design is important, how AI can help with character design, and helpful advice from yours truly. Questions? Any questions? You over there.
What did you name the character?
What did I name the character? I still don't have a name for the character. You know, since we're all here, why don't we just pick a name for the character? You guys can decide. Suggestions? Sherry? Sherry? Okay. I guess we will go with Sherry. Any other questions? Oh, you were there. Oh yeah, definitely. If you know a friend or you know someone who does concept art, definitely hiring someone can help streamline the process. But then again, I can understand it might be hard to find someone who does that nowadays in this day because everyone's just using AI, especially for thumbnails. It's scary. Questions? More questions? I can't see because it's like, oh, sorry. Right. So if you know a thing or two about color theory, there's a lot of colors that go together, and then there's colors that clash with each other. Can we go back on the inventor guy, like the concept art of him, so I can just like show what I'm trying to say here? Okay. So as you can see with the 2D concept, the gray on the vest kind of has like a bluish tint to it. It's more so like finding the balance between warm colors, cold colors, seeing what goes well together, what doesn't, right? It's because if you're doing something like, hey, this guy's gonna be an inventor guy. And what's not better than an inventor guy and having a color in blue and black? Just like the branding of most of Roblox's developer-related things, blue and black. That was totally not a coincidence. But yeah. So the way that I come to the conclusion about the color palette especially is that if it's easy for me to look at and it's easy for me to distinguish while meshing together pretty well and being pretty small of a color palette, then I think it's pretty good in my opinion. I hope that answers your question. Do we have any more questions? Yeah, you were there? Honestly, it depends, really. Sometimes I come up with a story first, or I just make the character first. It's like I said, it's a case-by-case sort of thing, but if it helps you brainstorm what a character looks like more, go for it. Write a story first. It definitely does help with that. Is that it for questions? I think so. Thank you guys so much. Oh my God, this has been like so nerve-wracking for me. It's like my first RDC ever.
Thank you so much, Flynn. That was great. Now we're gonna have Zach come and talk to us about designing for virality.
How does this work? Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming and thank you for being here. My name is Zach Leder. I am one of the co-founders of Wonderworks Studios, and today we're going to be talking about design that goes viral. A little bit of an introduction / background on me. I was a career influencer for over 10 years, making daily YouTube gaming videos, primarily on Minecraft from like 2007 to 2018. A little bit of Call of Duty here and there. But during my 10-year career, I amassed millions of subscribers, billions of overall views, and I met my amazing wife, Megan Plays. I call her Megan. But on Roblox, she goes by Megan Plays. And in 2018, she started her creator journey, generated tens of millions of followers since, and has generated billions of views as well. And she was a big reason of me realizing this overall flywheel between creators and the overall communities on Roblox and how they fed each other. So in 2019, in November, we founded Wonderworks Studios together. And, oh, there we go. Benefits of virality. I don't think I have to go too deeply here because there's a lot of benefits and they're pretty obvious. But number one, you get to limit your marketing spend. I know a lot of us don't have a lot of capital to throw around in trying to get in front of an influencer or paying for a paid collaboration or just even to spend on sponsored tiles. So how can you get as many impressions organically as possible is ultimately the number one goal. Also with virality, you reach large influencers organically. A good example is Kai Cenat streaming Dress to Impress. He is not a Roblox creator, but that's a game that got in front of him and he generated a lot of players for that experience overall. Exposure to the platform users and also non-platform users because of virality. So obviously having an experience that does really well on YouTube is going to generate more users for your experience, which is going to help you in the algorithm, and overall it's just going to be this flywheel. Helldivers 2, Pal World, Chained Together. These are indie examples of experiences off of Roblox that have really benefited from TikTok exposure and just video content in general. Viral design process. So here's what we think about when we're trying to design an experience that could have viral potential. The first thing is you have to identify a genre for success. I think an easy go-to is what's popular on the platform. Obviously, Match 3 doesn't have a bunch of entries, so it's probably not the best example and probably not the best genre to make an entry in. But also, is this genre popular off-platform? Are there creators that are making daily videos on it, making a living off of this and generating a bunch of viewership? Building communities off-platform will generate and build a community for you on-platform much easier. But also, how saturated is the genre and how polished are the experiences in this genre? So if you're looking to make a simple experience, let's say in the simulator genre, you're going to be competing against very polished experiences overall and most likely hundreds of popular experiences with new experiences coming every day, and this might not be the easiest step to take as your first experience when attempting to go viral. Also, another thing that I want to explain is avoiding content castles. You're probably wondering what a content castle is. I kind of break it down into 3 different types. Number one is fortified. And I think a good example of a fortified castle is a Brookhaven. They have been on the platform for more than 5 years. If you look at their YouTube community, it's established influencers with millions of subscribers doing billions of views throughout their career, and they don't easily change up their content. They're not looking for a new game every day. They're not introducing new content to their audience. They're trying to figure out what can they make on this game that's already established and continuing their growth path with that experience. Another example is Penetrable. Overall, I would avoid fortified castles. That's a Brookhaven example. But Penetrable is like Pet Sim 99. Still a big game, still monopolizes simulators overall, but does rely on live ops to provide new content to its creators off-platform. These creators aren't just making generic Pet Sim videos 365 days a year without new content being serviced to that game. So there is an opportunity, potentially in the simulator space, to make an entry if you can withhold or uphold the polish level of like a Pet Simulator 99. And then the final one, which is one I actually have a decent case study on, is an open gate castle. These are opportune genres, and I think the best genre to use as an example here is platformers or obbies, because I don't know many players that play only one obby and only that obby for the rest of their lives. And I don't know many influencers that only cover, like let's say for example, Barry's Prison Run 365 days a year. So this was an actual opportunity that we saw, and I'll go into that in a little bit, actually right now. Our proof of concept was starting this network called Hypercats. We founded it in the summer of 2023, and overall we saw an opportunity to improve on the obby space as a whole. Obbies were relatively low barrier of entry. You could literally make one with a toolkit on Roblox. They even had some that were pre-made. So what we saw an opportunity for was to introduce a little bit more polish to the overall experience, but also tell a bigger, deeper story that could potentially attract more YouTube attention. Our HyperCats network has done 250 million visits since, 500 million views on YouTube and TikTok, and all of those views on YouTube and TikTok were not paid for. They were all organic, and all these games were organically discovered. I have two examples here on the right side. Dollhouse was one experience we made. A lot of players resonated with this doll that we named Darling. One of the videos did 19 million views, long form, and then we just released a game called Don't Poop Yourself at School, which has a video that did 5.2 million views in just 3 months. The recipe for success in this concept overall was, one, we needed to identify our demographic. With Dollhouse, we were looking at female players. What would they be interested in? Who would those influencers most likely be in the female space that would be covering this content, and what has their thumbnails and video strategy looked like in the past? And with Don't Poop Yourself, it was, okay, we think this is going to have a slightly more immature audience, probably 9 and under. It could be mixed, but it's probably going to lean more male. There's fart humor and poop jokes overall. And when designing the antagonist for this, we put a lot of thought into that. So with Dollhouse, making a doll that would be captivating, polarizing, but also split the audience between loving and hating the doll overall. And Don't Poop Yourself, you were on this dilemma because you're in school, you wouldn't get a hall pass from your teacher, you had to sneak out of class, make it to the bathroom without getting caught, and ultimately without pooping yourself. With our overall concept, we also focused on narrative direction, because what most YouTubers have to do every single day is decide, what am I going to post today to retain my audience and the audience I've built? And we wanted to solve that problem for them. We wanted them to see our thumbnail and our icon and think, you know what, I'm just going to take the title of this game, slap it on my YouTube title, I'm going to take the character out of their thumbnail, and that's going to be my YouTube thumbnail. And in most cases, that's kind of what you're seeing here in these two examples. That's exactly what they did, and that's how we generate all that viewership. We took out the busy work for YouTubers. I actually had a couple influencers come up to me yesterday and say, it was nice just knowing I could go to this group and there was going to be a guaranteed video or two, just because the character and the title, it spoke for itself. We also focused on world building overall to help tell an engaging story. Most YouTubers want to at least hit 8 minutes for video content, because that's how you run mid-rolls, that's how you make more money. So we wanted to make sure the world was appealing enough and the game was long enough to get to that 8-minute runtime, even when edited down. So we kind of shot for a 15, 16-minute runtime for our players, which would most likely create 8 to 12 minutes of content for our influencers. Overall key takeaways. You want to identify a genre that's not too competitive, but also popular on and off platform. If you have the tools and the resources to enter a super competitive genre, because you have a massive studio, or you can take on a big challenge like that, totally feel free, but we really tried to do something that the barrier of entry was low. We could make significant improvements to the overall expectation of these experiences without too much investment, and we could improve on our own experiences one after the next. Avoid content castles. There's obviously the Brookhavens of the world that are super established. Those influencers aren't looking to switch up. And there's the Pet Sims of the world where they're more reliant on live ops, so there's a small opportunity. And then there's more casual games like the Obbies, where there's a little bit more opportunity to make an entry. And also create inspiring experiences, something that is going to inspire an influencer's video title, thumbnail, and content ideas. So that is all for my presentation. I'm here to take any questions if you have them. Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, was there a question? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, I think it is. So basically, it doesn't have a monopoly over the simulator YouTube category. So there's many YouTubers that cover simulators, but Pet Simulator essentially doesn't monopolize their daily videos unless there's live ops. So they're more reliant on shipping new content to keep the influencers engaged on a 7-day weekly basis. But let's say Muscle Building Simulator comes out tomorrow and I'm a simulator YouTuber and this game has 15,000 CCU out of nowhere, I might be compelled to make a video on Muscle Building Simulator. So there's a small chance that if you were to make an entry in that category, you could still get that organic exposure and effect. But with like a Brookhaven, that's so established, it's half a decade old. Those influencers have been making daily videos for over 1,600 days on that experience and are less likely to cover an experience outside of that one, in that genre. Yes, in the back.
Have you noticed any commonalities in the game design for experiences that work well for long form content and short form
Yes, with our case study, the antagonist mattered most. So we had like a title strategy that was escape evil blank. And what we found is as long as you have a really compelling antagonist on that icon and thumbnail, and we paired that with our storytelling, it worked in short form and long form. Actually, one of our best case studies with Dollhouse, they took the doll and they took one of our actual cutscenes that were in experience and clipped that into a TikTok with this song by Melanie Martinez, Dollhouse. And that generated 10 million views on TikTok, and which also led to some of those YouTube videos being created as well. Yes. Oh, of course, thank you. Yes. Yes. It wouldn't be as easy to go viral. So I think a good example with Brookhaven is Berry Avenue is a very popular game on platform, but if you look at overall video volume off platform, Brookhaven trumps it by many, many multiples, and it's hard to crack into that because most of the influencers have had success with Brookhaven, and there's not a huge incentive to make the switch unless Brookhaven was to see a small decline or something like that. But you can still be successful on platform because Berry Avenue is a good proof point that you can have 100,000 CCU without the YouTube support. But if Brookhaven wasn't so fortified and they were getting consistent videos from dozens upon dozens of influencers daily, they could be 300,000, 400,000. There could be that opportunity. And not saying it's impossible either. You could make a roleplay game tomorrow like Life Together did and have that pop moment, but that was attributed to like the Snapchat feature being so popular on TikTok, generating so much content. So doing something really unique in an established genre can lead to that, but it is just harder overall. So if you're looking for easy wins and to start to build your portfolio, I suggest like trying to avoid that. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah, bye.
Thank you guys so much for coming to Lightning Talks. We hope we'll, bring this back again next year. But we'll see you tomorrow on day 2.